Can the government tap your phone without permission? Or read your private emails? Or tell you what you can and can't say online? These aren't just abstract questions. They touch the very core of our daily lives. And the answer to them isn't found in a tech manual, but in a document written over 2 centuries ago. The Bill of Rights holds the key. The Bill of Rights is the collective name for the first 10 amendments to the United States Constitution. But they weren't an afterthought. They were a demand. They are the foundational contract between the American people and their government. A list of explicit prohibitions on governmental power, designed to safeguard individual liberty. To understand why, let's rewind to 1787. The Constitution had just been drafted, creating a new, stronger federal government. But many people, known as the Anti-Federalists, were deeply suspicious. They had just fought a war to escape the tyranny of a king. They looked at the new Constitution and saw the potential for a new kind of tyranny, one that was homegrown. They feared a central government that could tax them, raise an army, and potentially trample on the very freedoms they had fought for. Figures like George Mason and Patrick Henry argued passionately that without a specific list of protected rights, the government's power would be unchecked. On the other side, the Federalists, like Alexander Hamilton, argued that a Bill of Rights was unnecessary and even dangerous. They believed the Constitution already limited the government's power to only what was explicitly stated. Listing some rights, they worried, might imply that those were the rights people had. The debate was fierce, and several states refused to ratify the Constitution without the promise that a Bill of Rights would be added immediately. To bridge this divide and ensure the nation's unity, James Madison, initially a skeptic, took up the cause. He sifted through over 200 proposed amendments from the states, distilled them down, and championed them through Congress. In 1791, 10 of these amendments were ratified by the states, and the Bill of Rights was officially born. So, what did these amendments actually say? Let's start with the most famous, the First Amendment. This is the powerhouse of personal expression. It guarantees 5 fundamental freedoms in one sentence. First, freedom of speech. This gives you the right to criticize the government, express unpopular opinions, and engage in public debate without fear of censorship. However, it's not an unlimited right. You can't, for example, incite violence or spread libel. Second, freedom of religion. This has 2 parts. The government cannot establish an official state religion, and it cannot prohibit you from freely exercising your own beliefs, or lack thereof. Third, freedom of the press. This ensures that journalists and publishers can act as a watchdog, investigating and reporting on the government's actions to keep the public informed. Fourth, the right to peaceably assemble. This is the right to gather in groups for protests, parades, and demonstrations, a cornerstone of social and political change. And finally, the right to petition the government for a redress of grievances. This means you have the right to complain to your leaders and ask them to fix problems without being punished for it. Next is the Second Amendment, one of the most debated phrases in American history, the right of the people to keep and bear arms. Its original context was rooted in the need for a well-regulated militia, as the young nation relied on citizen soldiers for defense rather than a large permanent army. For centuries, the debate raged. Did this protect a collective right for states to maintain a militia, or an individual's right to own a gun? In 2008, the Supreme Court, in the case of District of Columbia versus Heller, affirmed that it protects an individual's right to possess a firearm for lawful purposes, like self-defense in the home. Still, the amendment's language continues to fuel intense discussion over the extent to which the government can regulate firearms today. The Third Amendment is one you might not have heard of. It prohibits the quartering of soldiers in private homes without the owner's consent. This might seem outdated, but it was a major issue for the colonists, who were forced by the British to house and feed soldiers. Today, it stands as a powerful symbol of the principle that your home is your castle, a private space protected from government intrusion. And that brings us to the Fourth Amendment, which directly addresses our opening question about phone tapping. It protects you from unreasonable searches and seizures. This means the government can't just barge into your house, rifle through your belongings, or seize your property without a very good reason. To conduct a search, law enforcement generally needs a warrant, which is a legal document signed by a judge. To get that warrant, they must show probable cause, a reasonable basis for believing a crime has been committed. The warrant must also be specific, describing the exact place to be searched and the items to be seized. In our digital age, this amendment is more important than ever, forming the basis for legal battles over police access to your emails, text messages, and location data on your phone. What happens if you are accused of a crime? The Fifth Amendment provides a crucial safety net. It contains several protections. It guarantees the right to a grand jury for serious federal crimes, ensuring a group of citizens reviews the evidence before charges are even filed. It protects against double jeopardy, meaning you can't be tried for the same crime twice. It establishes your right against self-incrimination, famously known as pleading the fifth. This means you cannot be forced to testify against yourself. And it guarantees due process of law, a fundamental promise that the government must act fairly and follow established rules before it can take away your life, liberty, or property. It also includes the Takings Clause, preventing the government from taking your private property for public use without paying you fair compensation. The Sixth, Seventh, and Eighth Amendments further protect your rights within the legal system. The Sixth guarantees the right to a speedy and public trial by an impartial jury, the right to know what you're accused of, and, crucially, the right to an attorney. The Seventh guarantees a jury trial in certain civil cases, disputes over money or property, and the Eighth Amendment prohibits cruel and unusual punishments and excessive bail, preventing the government from imposing disproportionate or barbaric penalties. Finally, we have the Ninth and Tenth Amendments. These are the bookends that frame the entire Bill of Rights. The Ninth Amendment is a brilliant piece of foresight. It states that just because certain rights are listed in the Constitution, it doesn't mean those are the only rights people have. It acknowledges that your freedoms are vast and uninnumerable. The Tenth Amendment reinforces the principle of federalism. It says that any powers not specifically given to the federal government are reserved for the states or the people, ensuring a balance of power. So, why does a document from the 18th century still matter so much? Because the Bill of Rights is not a relic. It's a living, breathing shield. It protects your right to post your opinion on social media, to worship as you choose, to feel secure in your own home, and to demand a fair process if you're ever accused of a crime. It is the foundation of American freedom, a constant reminder that the government's power is limited and that certain individual rights are absolute. Knowing these rights is the first step to defending them. They are your inheritance and your responsibility.